My name is Dr. Felice Cellini, and I'm blessed and grateful to be in recovery. And this is our Why Wait for Recovery Sunday morning community meeting.
Hi, good morning. My name is Haiti, and welcome to Sunday Why Wait for Recovery community meeting. I'm a compulsive overeater. I'm an emotional eater. I am a binger, purger, food addict, and a drug addict in recovery.
And I am an alcoholic, drug addict, anorexic in recovery. Good morning. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us this morning, talking about recovery with us.
So
Recovery's
every Sunday and Wednesday, we actually live stream on Facebook, on Google Plus, on YouTube. People join us in the room physically if you're in Southeast Florida, and they also join us virtually on our online room. So if you want to join into the conversation, hop in now. We really only as sick as the secrets that we keep. So join in our conversation. We'd love to speak with you.
We would love to. And today you guys are going to talk about acceptance. And so I'm going to read from the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous about acceptance because it's awesome. So they say, acceptance is the answer to all of my challenges today. Although they say problems, but I like the word challenges better. Acceptance is the answer to all of my challenges today. When I am disturbed, it's because I find some person, place, thing, situation, some fact of life unacceptable to me. And I can find no serenity until I accept that person, place, thing, or situation as being exactly the way that it's supposed to be at this moment. Until I could accept my addiction, I couldn't stay clean. Unless I accept life completely on life's terms, I cannot be happy. I need to concentrate not so much on what needs to be changed in the world as on what needs to be changed in me and in my attitudes. So when we talk about acceptance, we talk about how it's something as simple as being unhappy that it's raining. Like if it's raining, it's raining. So we could be unhappy about the fact that it's raining, or we could be cool about the fact that it's raining, but it ain't going to change because it's raining, right? No matter how unhappy or miserable we decide to be.
But can I just wish the rain away and it will just disappear?
You can, and that's not going to happen. And so what happens usually, it's not so much that we're wishing the rain away, but we're wishing that something else would change, oftentimes inside of or about somebody else that we have absolutely no control over, right? So it's like when I walked in this morning, you didn't hug me and bring me flowers and shine my shoes. You know what I mean?
Right, 100%.
Right, or you were in a bad mood.
Right.
And none of that has anything to do with me, right? That has to do with you and where you are in your place in the world. I think she's trying to get in touch
we
with
mute
you.
it because that might be the issue.
No.
Okay, so you have anything to say about acceptance? Or
Yes, I do. So when I was in active addiction, I really believe that most of the misery that I felt, because I was a very miserable, unhappy person, was because if people only did what I told them to do when I told them to do it, I would be happy. And I thought that I controlled everything. So if I wished something long enough and hard enough, it would actually just manifest and automatically be. And also, it put me in that position of being really codependent on other people. So I was holding them responsible. It put me in the position of feeling like I'm being a victim for most of the time. So I really put my happiness in the hands of other people. So all of a sudden, when I started looking at something else and stepping into a level of acceptance, because there's very few things that I really can control. And we touched on this on Wednesday, that there's only two types of control. There's remote control and cruise control. Everything else beyond that is really out of our hands. And when we so busy thinking of that, we really lose what's happening in the moment.
Well, and we lose, thank you for saying that, and we lose sight of the fact that the actual two things that we can control is our own perspective and our own actions. So when Ashley comes in this morning, she is not responsible for my mood or how I feel or how I behave. She's just a girl who showed up to do her thing this morning, right? Even though she stepped into the world around me, doesn't mean that her actions or thoughts or feelings should have anything to do with the way that my thoughts or feelings are.
Right, and if it did, then that reflects on you.
Yeah, and so again, you know, when we talk about, I don't have a husband, but when we talk about, like, because you talk a lot about the family, right? And if you walk into the house and your husband's in a bad mood, it doesn't have anything to do with you. Right?
Well, before it used to.
Maybe it does have something to do
Right,
with
it
you,
might have
that
something.
he's mad at you, but that's about him. He chooses to be mad at you or not.
Right, and that's a conversation.
Right, but you know when you walk into the house and somebody's grumpy and so you decide that you're going to be pissed off because they're pissed off. What is that?
So I had that conversation with my son because there was a stage where I used to take it on. Okay, there was a stage when I was really very codependent and I used to go on energy. I'm an energy person. So the whole energy would change as soon as he walked in through the front door. And that would just put me off and I didn't know how to deal with it because being uncomfortable is one of the things that I really don't know what to deal with. I'd go to beating myself up or taking it on that I'm responsible. So I always thought I'm a mind reader. So I always thought I could determine what the issue was, and 99% of the time it's really wrong. But then I'd start taking it out on the kids. So I'd become like really insecure in certain ways and become really grumpy and really short and really discontent, and I start getting short and discontent with the kids.
So you're
well.
saying that your mood had to do with your mood was a reflection of your kid's mood.
No, of my husband's mood. So when
Oh,
he
I thought you said when your husband.
no,
you said when your
he
kid walked in.
No, when my husband walked in.
It's a Freudian slip.
Right. So then I take it out on the kids. So it would be like this whole chain reaction of events. And it had nothing to do with them. And I actually heard this really, really interesting. Someone was talking and they're saying like they were looking at two things. Like this woman's going out. So she's going out with her husband that night and she spends all day planning where they're going. And she goes out and she buys the dress and she's talking to her friends and she can't wait. And they go out for dinner. And he's really quiet and she thinks he's grumpy. And she's going, what have I done? What did I think? Why did I do that? And it's this whole conversation in our head. They get home. She's like all over her and they end up having sex, okay? Because she thinks at least if I can have sex, everything's okay. They have sex and it's been like this 3-hour conversation in her head. And he's thinking, wow, I really shot a bad round of golf today, but at least I got laid, okay? So that was like his whole
Right,
whole
and
process.
so there's the story that we tell ourselves. Shout out to Susan, love you, good morning Susan, best mom ever. There's the story that we tell ourselves, and then there's what's really happening. And so we're never going to know, is this a story that I'm telling myself or this is what's really happening? And so we talked about real quick, because it's a real easy visual. So I walk in here this morning and I walk in here this morning and I bump by you and I'm looking down at the floor and I sit down here and I put my phone in to start the meeting. Right? Now you have a choice. You could say, wow, Felice is such a bitch. Like, how did she, and who does she think she is? And this is my house, and she doesn't even say good morning, and she comes in here to run a meeting, and what the fuck? Like, really? Like, and she's got such an attitude and an ego, and she thinks this is all about her, and da-da-da, right? Or you can say, wow, I hope Felice is okay today. I'm going to reach out to her after the meeting. I hope everything was okay with her and her family yesterday. So you could take it on as it's got something to do with you because I'm being disrespectful to you and I'm being nasty. Or you could take it on as, wow, I hope Felice is okay today. Same exact thing happened. It's just whatever's happening in your head.
So it's that same story that so many things happen around us, but they don't necessarily happen to us.
We're not victims. Thank you.
And that's kind of been the motto, that's what I've been hearing a lot this week. Is
That you're not a victim?
no, about people taking on stuff that happened around them and to other people that they know and that they care about. And they take it on that it's actually them personally that's going through this. So I think empathy and sympathy is where we really that's sometimes a really slippery slope of where do you sit without taking it on, but being empathetic to a person and being kind and compassionate.
Right. So you could be empathetic. I could feel what you're feeling. You know, I can be really sad and understand how you feel, which is empathy, but it doesn't mean that I need to step into your chaos. Step into the chaos and take your chaos on as my own. So we can sympathize and empathize without stepping into somebody else's chaos in their world.
So that's important to me as an addict because one of my triggers for me to use is chaos. So when I step into chaos, everything becomes chaotic, and then that becomes the reasons why I used to justify using, no matter what it was. If it was food, cigarettes, drugs, it didn't matter what it was. That became, oh, my day has been so hectic, I need this to relax, or I need this for whatever it is. And it became the need conversation because I created or stepped into chaos and 99% of it had nothing to do with me.
Yeah, and so for me, being clean, if I'm stepping into somebody's chaos, then it just makes me discontent, right?
Right.
So now I'm not using today, I'm just miserable. So,
Right.
and then, if you're miserable, well, we didn't get clean to stay miserable.
Right, and
Right.
sometimes we don't have a choice. I mean, sometimes we're in a situation that is chaotic.
Absolutely.
Sometimes we can turn around and say, this is one of my triggers and it's become one of my boundaries. And one of the greatest gifts I get in recovery is being able to establish boundaries with people and being able to say, these are the things. And it's not really with people, it's with me, because 99% of the people don't know what my boundaries are, but they're my personal boundaries, so that I can turn around and go, this isn't serving me and this isn't working for me. I need to leave. I need to do something else. But sometimes we can't just leave because it's our kids, it's something really close, people we love get sick, whatever the story is, there's chaos that comes around with us. But that's when our tools become so important, our tools of recovery, those things that we rely on to be able to stay clean.
And we call that acceptance. So acceptance is the answer to all of my challenges
Right.
today. So if I accept you for whatever it is that you're going through, and I understand that it's got nothing to do with me, right?
Right.
Right. Now, it doesn't mean that we can accept unacceptable behavior with our kids. So if your kid comes in and throws his garbage on the front door when he walks in, that's a situation that's not acceptable, right? So then you need to say to your kid, "I need for you to pick up your garbage on the front floor." But it doesn't mean that you have to get angry or stay angry about it, right?
Right, and anger is a huge thing. That's the point which is definitely a choice. Because if happiness is a choice, all those other emotions that we can fall into, or we've got the choice of what we want to step into. So when it comes to tools as well, sometimes it becomes overwhelming. So that's one of the reasons we have community. That's one of the reasons we have our online group, which is called What's Eating You. So when things do become overwhelming, we reach out and we talk to other people in recovery. We don't talk to the people who are putting fuel on that fire to make the chaos worse. We talk to people who have got some sense of recovery to be able to say to us, maybe look at this with a different perspective.
Right. And whether we can understand what's happening with the other person or not, and when we talk about anger, you guys, all of our negative emotions are fear-based, and so we say fear is afraid of losing what I have or not getting what I want, right? So in that instance, that fear is maybe losing your contentment, right? And so we want to take a look at that and see what it is that we're actually losing, what we're supposed to take on, and then what we're supposed to let go of. The more that we're accepting of life around us, the happier that we are. It's just the way that it is. It's like fighting against the wave. If a wave's coming, it's coming. No matter how hard you fight against it, it's going to knock it down. It's going to knock you down. When a wave comes and you relax and let it go over you, you stand right up on the other side. And so that's basically for me what acceptance is.
So for me, what acceptance is I'm a serial dieter. So every time I started those diets, okay, because I'm the food addict, so I thought that I could control it for a certain period. And I did. I controlled it for a certain period of time. So I'd lose lots of weight, then I'd be good and great for a little period of time, and then I'd gain it back. And it became this continual process of dieting and losing and gaining and dieting, beating myself up, feeling shamed, demoralized, and guilty. And it was this continual
We call
process.
that active addiction, by the way. You guys.
Right. And then the acceptance part of it, which is one of the things I struggled with in recovery, is I thought recovery was something you got. I looked at it the same way as a diet. That all of a sudden you get recovered and you're done and you've been through a process and you've earned it and you're done with it. But the minute that shifts and you shift into a thought process of acceptance, then it's not the food that becomes the issue. It becomes the reasons why we're picking up to use it as a tool to change how we're feeling.
Right. So it's never about the food, and it's never about the drugs or the cocaine or the sex or the gambling. It's about what's eating us. It's about what's going on inside of us, and what do I need to change in me so that I can change my behaviors. You want to go around and do a quick check-in?
Sure.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How's your acceptance today?
Today it's very good.
All
Thank
right,
you very
then.
much for asking. I've been working on my acceptance, and it's gotten much better since I got sober this time. Because everything is different this time since I got sober. But
Because why is everything different for you?
not quite sure,
So, you
but
know,
it's really good.
It says in here, until I accepted the fact, let's say that I was an
There you go.
alcoholic,
Yeah.
so until I 1,000% accepted that, Haiti was talking about dieting, which is not acceptance, it's active addiction. So until as I accepted the fact that, yeah, I'm an addict. You know, this is the way that it is.
Yeah.
I'm not a victim, I'm an addict, and I
Right.
can move forward.
Yeah,
So
that's very
I'm
true.
wondering if part of,
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, now that you say it, I remember when everything turned around for me. I was thinking to myself, and I said, what kind of mind makes the choices that I make? And then I said, oh, an addict and an alcoholic mind.
yeah.
And it just became like, all right, I'm gonna change this. This is gonna stop. It was really miraculous. But anyway, so my whole thinking about all of my situations that are personal to me, you know, where I live, who I live with, what I do, what I don't do, how I look, how I feel, everything. I just began to accept it and look at it differently, and instead of like fighting against all of it, it just became okay. Everything was okay.
Yeah, and okay is so much easier,
Oh
right?
my gosh, so much easier than kicking and screaming and fighting through life.
For the stuff that is anyway. You know,
Yeah.
when you talked about boundaries, and boundaries means that I'm in a situation where that's unacceptable to me. And when it's unacceptable to me and it doesn't feel okay for me, then that's my opportunity to walk away. So for me, the difference between acceptance and boundaries, especially in early recovery, was very skewed. You know, what's okay for me? What behavior is acceptable? When I look at you and you and I are in a relationship, what's acceptable and when are you crossing a boundary? That was like a really huge lesson for me to learn that I'm still doing my best to work on, because it's still a tiny bit of a gray area for me where I have to work on that with my therapist, actually.
Now, it's funny because the things that I kicked and screamed against and now accept, the whole problem was my perception, because I am incredibly blessed, and anything that I was feeling wasn't right is really very, very good. I'm so blessed.
So you're talking about a little bit of gratitude instead of
completely,
discontentment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you touched on a really good point as well. You know, addiction is a thinking disease.
Mm-hmm.
And those thoughts that we tell us are something that we spend so much time doing that are not necessarily healthy and serve us in a good, productive way, you know, in a way that helps us be happy and healthy and do really good things for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So no matter, and we lose so much time being stuck in that place. You know, I wanted to be blonde, skinny with dimples, and I used to sleep with tape on my face so I could get dimples. I mean, this is like the craziness. And I used to obsess. I was never comfortable with the way I looked, or, you know, when I think back and look at it, and all of a sudden when we reach that stage, no matter what we feel, we look and do the things that we look the way that we do. We're not going to change it by thinking anything different. But in our minds, it's amazing how I use that to beat myself up, or to try and think my way out of things, or wish my way out of things, and just lost so much time in that process. And that time that could have been spent connecting or doing so many other options, you know.
And the important part of what you said was that it had absolutely nothing to do with the way that you looked.
Right.
And so you wanted dimples, and you wanted to be blonde, and you wanted to be skinny because you felt less than and unlovable. It's not that you wanted to have blonde hair. It's why did you want to have blonde hair? It's not that you wanted to have dimples. It's why did you feel the need to have dimples?
Because all the cool chicks and the most popular
Right,
ones.
so the cool chicks who are the most popular are worthy.
Right.
And if I'm not one of the cool chicks, then I'm not worthy. So it's always going to go back to what is the feeling behind what I want. Right? So am I feeling sad? Am I feeling hurt? Am I feeling less than? Am I feeling unlovable? And it's always going to get back to that. And that's how we look at ourselves and find out what it is that we need to accept in ourselves, as well as understand about ourselves, which makes it easier for us to accept other people. When you talk about being indignant, right? when you talk about that, when people are coming up and you feel like fighting up against them, it's always because of something that we feel is lacking in us. Really, really difficult concept, but it's actually the epitome of what is happening with us. So, where is the angst or the sadness or the fear or the feeling less than coming from? And why is it there? And how do I make that better?
I think there's also a certain amount of wisdom that comes with age as well. I mean, this is a weird thing, but I'm talking from my own story because I can only talk from me. That all of a sudden, you know, when I was in my 30s and my 20s, there was always an opportunity for huge change. Like I always thought that things could always be, there was like so much hope for the future of things that I could create. And the minute I turned 50, all of a sudden I started realizing that even if things didn't change, being happy was a choice that I could make with things just being the way that they are. You know, and before I used to put that happiness on things and places rather than on feelings and being present and enjoying the moment and being happy right now, no matter what things were. I can't change those circumstances for right this second, but being able to enjoy where I am and feeling blessed and grateful for being here for right this second is something that I can step into and enjoy right now, no matter what that future looks like, because who knows how long I'm here for, or anyone else that's in my world is making the most of those opportunities. So I think the wisdom for me was just being able to step into that space, that acceptance, adds a certain level of peace and serenity in my life that I can just enjoy where I am. I mean, it's not that I let go of those past behaviors so quickly that I'm not anal retentive and I'm not a neurotic person or these other things that are challenges that I work on, but it definitely puts me more present in being able to, when those feelings start coming up, going where they're coming from and why am I feeling this, rather than just letting them take over and me use as an excuse.
Yeah, and my hope is whoever's out there watching, whether you're 17 or 77, that it's not going to matter so much for them for ages. We have a lot of young people in the room
Right,
as well.
100%.
Yeah,
I wish I got this when I was younger. I mean, that's really my hope.
and for me, I didn't start drinking until I was 36. So it wasn't, you know, all of our experience and all of our addiction experience is going to start at other times. For me, in the beginning, it was really easy to know why I was drinking because I was really sad, right? And I was really fearful. And so that sadness and that fearful was kind of really easy to put my finger on. It wasn't easy to get clean. It took me a long time to get clean. But still, it's about taking a look at us and understanding in ourselves why it is that we want to do the things that we do. What's motivating us? Why it is that we feel the way that we feel, so that we could learn acceptance, which allows us to change the way that we feel, which allows us to be in recovery, not just stay clean, but actually allows us to be in recovery and be happy, joyous, and free. If I'm walking around miserable, I ain't happy. If I feel less than you, I'm not happy. If I feel unworthy of your love, I'm not going to be happy.
And I also think it's that realization of why do I keep putting myself into this process that I keep hurting myself. You know, when I'm feeling bad, I make myself feel worse. No matter what I'm doing, even when I'm in active addiction, I do things because I feel really good or really bad. And at some stage, that stuff that feels really good starts feeling really bad and it starts hurting myself. So when I'm in active addiction, I step into chaos and then take it on and beat myself up with a bat and really make myself feel worse through the whole process, no matter what it is. So part of that is that realization and that awareness of why do I need to feel compelled to hurt myself and make decisions that hurt me consistently.
Yeah, and that's again because of those feelings that we have, that we're undeserving of being happy, right? Because once we realize that we deserve to be happy and we could work through getting rid of those negative feelings, you know, they say resentments will take everybody out, right? And so resentment is fear, right? Resentment, anger, jealousy, all of that stuff that keeps us fearful is this stuff that keeps us in active addiction. It's this stuff that we stuff or that we don't want to feel, right?
And that feeling of being unloved. I mean, that's really what it is.
Absolutely.
So when I feel unloved or unlovable, it's very hard to love and be and love other people as well.
Mm-hmm. Very
Really
true.
creates those walls and those barriers.
Very true. Doesn't keep us from acting a certain way, which is our own BS, right?
Right.
Acting a certain way on the outside, which is our ego.
So we definitely end up saying things we don't mean and not the things that we really do feel. So.
Correct, because we're afraid to say the way that we feel because we're unworthy. Good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
Good.
Good. We haven't seen you in so long. I'm really happy to see you this morning. What's going on with you, girl?
I'm learning to accept my happiness on my own terms rather than like if someone else is happy with me, then I'm happy.
At codependency.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is part of an addiction, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's pretty awesome.
Very good. Good for you. Is that working out okay?
Yeah. I mean, pretty happy.
Very good. And so you finding your unhappiness is the unhappiness, your only happiness that you're ever going to find. Because if I'm happy with you, it don't matter, right? I could
Yeah.
move to Japan tomorrow. Whether I was happy with you or not, your happiness needs to come from you. And you having that sense of feeling worthy, right? Of your own happiness.
Yeah.
So very good. How are you doing as far as abstinence and stuff like that goes? So just touch base with you because I haven't seen you in so long.
Good. I mean, I think like 2 weeks ago, I gave up carbs for a while.
Starch.
And then, yes. And then I don't know what it was, but I started eating them and I completely just saw myself start changing. I'm like, I can't do this. So then I stopped and I started saying, no, I just need to do this for myself, blah, blah, blah. So went back to the gym. So now I'm doing pretty good.
Okay, good. And I'm really, really glad that you're here. So thanks
Thank
for
you.
being here this morning.
Appreciate it.
Did you want to say something else? Or you're
No,
just
I think
looking
I'm
this
okay.
way?
Thank you.
And you got anything to share?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Good morning, Karen. Let me know if you do. Good morning, Karen.
Good morning.
How are you?
Oh, we contact Karen.
Can we make Karen louder?
One
Yes.
sec, we
One
contact.
second, Karen. We're going to make you louder because we all want to hear what you got to say.
we got
Maybe.
Yeah, we've lost the remote.
We've
Hold on.
lost the louder.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to interpret.
I got you.
Oh, we got you.
Okay, we found louder.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can. Good morning.
Good morning.
We can't see you anymore.
I've been making notes so I don't forget what I want to say. But one thing that strikes me really hard and has been an ongoing issue for me in terms of empathy, there are certain people in my life that I feel when they're in pain, I feel like it's happening to me. And it's even, I make up my own scenarios about what's going on with her
Bless her.
so that I'm creating my own chaos, but I just almost feel like I'm empathizing so much that I'm feeling her pain, and that hurts. The other thing is I too struggle with acceptance versus boundaries. Sometimes I feel like, okay, if I'm accepting everything, then that means I can let people do whatever they want. But I know that's not true, but I have trouble differentiating and figuring out what's best.
Yeah, so your sponsor works on that with her therapist, so you should work on that with your sponsor. Yeah, it was a really tough thing for me, and like I said, it's something that I work on as well. And as far as you empathize and feeling for somebody, as soon as you step into their chaos, it takes away any of the power that you actually do have, right, inside of yourself.
Right.
Right, you give up that power when you step into somebody else's chaos, when you step into the middle of somebody else's stuff, and definitely means that you're not accepting of what's going on around you.
Yeah.
You're stepping into it
Right.
instead of saying, hey, it's really too bad so-and-so is going through this. You know, how can I have some words of wisdom, or, you know, can I be a little bit of a guide because maybe I have some experience, or can I be there for that person without getting in the middle of it and creating, you know, it's like energy on energy, whether it's positive energy on positive energy or negative on negative, whatever you're going to put into it is going to snowball.
So I
Yeah.
just want to also, Karen, you bring up something that's been a struggle for me as well, because I've always been a nurturer and a fixer, and that's always a role that I've seen myself in. And it hasn't always served me because I've always felt, sometimes I do feel like a doormat when I do that in the past. Like I felt like I put myself out there way too much and took on too many things that actually hurt me. I mean, I'm learning through recovery how to change things, but I definitely understand that point of I think for me it was also the way that I was brought up, is that being that nurturing female figure was something that was very important in the society that I grew up in. But things have shifted and changed, but it hasn't served me, because I find as I'm stepping more into my recovery and being healthier, it affects the relationships around me in a positive way. You know, there's definitely, by doing that, the boundaries make me a healthier, happier person, which means I'm able to give more and do more in terms of being more authentic and more honest. And that's definitely sits better in my spirit and with me spiritually.
And so I love when people say, you know, a doormat, and I always say, you know, you can't be treated like a doormat unless you lay your ass down in front of the door. Right? That's something that we do, that it's something that we allow.
And we
So that
volunteer
isn't,
for.
yes, we do.
Right.
And also, you know, I love when people use that, I give too much. Well, if you give too much, like, what does that mean? Like, give to give. If I'm giving to receive, then I'm going to feel like I'm giving too much because I have an expectation attached to it. When I'm giving to give from my heart and I expect nothing back, I can't be giving too much because whatever I'm giving is just given with openness and love, and it ends there. Right? So if I'm doing something because I expect you, and we've talked about this, because I expect you to act a certain way, I'm going to give Angeli money so that she could pay for her school. And she goes out and she buys clothes with it. If I actually just gave her money because I want to be nice and give her some money and help her out in her life, then I gave her the money and it's done. If I have that expectation, then shame on me. Right? Unless we've had a conversation about it and that's something that we've agreed on. Right? But otherwise, and you've had a situation like that, I've had situations like that before as well. So when we're just giving to give, that's different than giving with an expectation.
Well, I don't always give with an expectation. I go with the feeling good, you know, and that also can be on the negative side because I can go, that's
an
the ego. So,
expectation.
well, there's the ego side of it, and when it's giving too much becomes where I get so involved in the task that I forget to look after myself. So I forget the eating. I do it at the expense of being healthy. And that's the ego. For me, that is a huge ego payoff to want to be liked or want to be seen in a different way. And that's where my ego comes into play.
Right, and that's you giving with an expectation.
Because
You're giving with the expectation that it's going to, that something's going to pay off at the end to change the way that you're feeling. As opposed to, as I'm giving, it's making me happy, and that's the end of it.
So you can be kind, compassionate, and loving irrespective of how the other person takes it.
Exactamente.
Ahmed.
Okay. Let's see here. So we've been talking a lot about acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
We've been talking a lot about acceptance. My thing is, before you can even get to acceptance, you have to go through trials of the opposite of acceptance. You have to go through denial first, right? Before you can get to acceptance. How would you say, because we talk about, okay, acceptance, but how do you get to that point?
What do you have to have denial about? Help me
Well,
so I understand you better.
Let's say you have to accept the fact that you do have a problem, right?
Okay, like you're an addict?
Yes,
Should we use that? Okay, so I'm going to accept the fact that I'm an addict, okay? Or you're going to accept the fact that you're an addict.
exactly. So, the first thing that comes up is that denial that I can't possibly have this problem. Like I can't
Okay.
possibly be in this, state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
So before I get to that accepting that this is who I am and how to be comfortable with it in order to function and go about fixing it. It seems we have to go through everything except acceptance before you get to acceptance.
So you're talking about I'm 3 years old and the stove looks nice because it's a really pretty color red, and I put my hand on the stove and I burn myself,
Sort of.
right? And then I know not to put my hand on the stove anymore. I've
Yeah.
accepted the fact that I'm going
Yes.
to burn my hand on that
Yes,
stove.
I have
So
to
that's
compare.
acceptance, right? In the beginning, I didn't know
No.
whether I could see it or had the information or didn't have the information, right?
Right.
I put the hand on the stove and I got burned. I did that once. Most people will do that once. And then they're in acceptance of the fact that if I do this behavior, I'm going to wind up hurt. Right? For addicts, it's a little bit different. We'll usually practice that same behavior 156 billion times, expecting the frickin' stove not to be hot. How much denial do we have to go through that's different for everybody? Do we have to go through long periods of denial? I don't know. Most addicts don't get well until the pain is so great that pain outweighs whatever they think they're getting from that high, right? when the risk to change is less of a risk than the risk it is to stay where they are. That's usually the deciding fact for addicts, unfortunately for us, you guys. That's usually what it is. So we're talking in abstract. So is there anything that you want to talk about a little bit more specifically
No.
beside the camera?
No, I think that was it. I was trying to just get to the fact that, you know,
It's
it's easy to say acceptance, but it's
Of
so much
course.
harder to practice
Of
it.
course, absolutely, and everybody does their own shtick in their own time. And your time's going to be different than my time. My hope for everybody out there is that if you're already in pain, reach out. You know, if you're already in pain, you don't have to be, to me, where the last time, I don't even remember how I got to the hospital last time that I OD'd, and I wasn't allowed to see my family anymore, and I got dropped off at a halfway house. I don't even hardly remember what brought me to that stage, but it wasn't because I used once. I could promise you that. I would have been homeless. It wasn't because I used once. I was in treatment for 6 months. It wasn't because I put my hand on the fire once, right? It's because I had pretty much burned myself up.
So that is actually one of the reasons that we developed the workshop as well.
Okay.
Is because
1 second, Angie.
yeah, we're coming to age now. Is because people were struggling and they didn't know what it was, what it looked like and why, and they were struggling with pain and being really miserable where they were. That people started asking us for additional help to kind of pinpoint it and be able to work through it, and that's why you came up with the workbook. So-
Yeah, and that our workshop are kind of like classes. It's a mastermind of recovery and learning how to be in recovery and sharing our experience and strength and hope with each other, very, very intensely. So it's for people, you know, we say recovery isn't just for people who want it or need it, because we all need it and we all want it, but it's for the people who are willing enough to do something differently so that they can get well. Ange?
I was gonna ask a question about what you said about denial. I know you said that denial is different depending on the person, but does there have to be denial at all?
So, here's the thing. Do we know we're doing things addictively? Yes. Are we in denial at the same time, meaning, you know what, I'll stop tomorrow? That's
Okay,
denial.
So like different.
Right.
Okay, that makes
right.
sense.
But you know, it's really okay for today, because I'm going to stop using tomorrow, or I'm going to stop using on Monday, or nobody's going to know. Or when we say every time we picked up on a lie. So when we're talking about lying to ourselves, we're in denial,
When you
even though we know we have a problem.
So when you said denial, I automatically went to, we don't know we have a problem, but then I understood what you meant. There's varying degrees of that, and we work
Yeah.
on that a lot when we work in recovery. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, and thanks for saying that, because that was a good clarification.
Yeah.
So
And I
thank you.
and I think it also goes over to that point of, I know for myself, that the denial for me was when I had bariatric surgery. It was also being clean with other people, being honest with other people. It took a long time for me to step up and say, I'm an addict. You know, for me to actually say those words out loud, even though in a personal image thing, there were like so many things that came up to be able to step in and be able to just walk into it and accept it and just go, let's do it because we're being of service, it's a greater good, and the good out of it, for whatever it is far better in terms of our own recovery as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's okay. Leave
Yeah.
me alone. It's okay. Yeah. Good morning. Good morning. How are you this morning? It's good to see you. Just resume. Resume? Thank you so much. Good morning. How are you this morning? I love that. So she's one of those people that just says everything's great on the outside because it's not on the inside. But so much easier to say, right? Than to say, ruh-roh, today I'm feeling like this. And that's okay. And my hope for you is whatever is going on with you, that you'll feel comfortable sharing at some point. But it's really, really nice to see you this morning. So thank you for being here this morning. Anybody else want to share anything? Dawn, you got something to say?
Oh, let's see.
Do we have anything online? Because you know,
Yeah, so
yes,
we're talking about
Yeah,
we're
sorry.
talking about acceptance, and somebody asked the question: are acceptance and forgiveness?
speak up, baby. I can't hear you.
So somebody asked the question: are acceptance and forgiveness related?
Well, Acceptance, no, it's not. Acceptance is simply Angelique's being a brat this morning because she's in a bad mood, and I'm going to accept the fact that she's really not bad. I'm going to accept the fact that she's being a brat because she's in a bad mood, and it doesn't have anything to do with me. And as long as she's not actually being mean to me, I'm going to accept the fact that that's how she is. Self-acceptance and forgiving myself is different. Learning to accept myself for who I am allows me to forgive myself for the things that I've done. I think self-acceptance allows me to get rid of some shame. And so then I would put the two of those together.
But and on the other end of it, if we link the two, I understand what you just said, but I think as addicts we tend to think of forgiveness that we're doing it for the other person, and then that's where we link it, you know what I mean? That's where we link it to acceptance. And then when we realize, because you and I actually had this conversation yesterday, we forgive for ourselves and solely for ourselves.
Correct.
When you do it for any other reason, or you make yourself believe it's for any reason, I could see where we could think that it's linked to acceptance in a big way.
So I didn't think about that. So you guys, if I'm angry at Angelique, the reason why, you know, it's not that I need an apology from her. So what it is when I let go of whatever negative feelings I have for somebody else, I let go of the negative feelings inside of me. So if I forgive you for something that you did, I forgive you not because I forgive you doesn't mean what you did was acceptable to me. I forgive you not because I want you to like me, but I forgive you because if I walk around with that anger, it's hurting me, man. It ain't hurting you, right? And so we forgive to let go of the anger and the fear that's inside of ourselves. Whatever happens on the other side, if we find that person or that person's actions acceptable or not, if I like, you know, me forgiving you doesn't mean that I like you. It means that I'm going to let go of the anger and fear that I have inside of me. I can choose to be your friend or not to be your friend, but that has nothing to do with forgiveness. Forgiveness sets us free. What it does with the other person is out there in the universe.
So this leads into resentment. I mean, this is when
everything leads into resentment.
So this
resentment is fear.
So I love it because I see so many posts of, you know, my wife isn't supporting me in going for surgery, and this one's not doing this, or my mother did that, or my sister did this, or my brother, my husband ever did that, and that is why I'm failing or I'm not being able to be successful in the things that I want to be successful in. So this leads into that whole thing of what is so mean, you know, those fears and those resentments and all that kind of stuff become the excuses that we use to hold ourselves back, to not wanting to step into something different and try something different.
Right. It allows me to stay a victim.
And to stay safe.
If it's your fault because you're not supportive of me, then I'm a victim, as opposed to me taking responsibility for my own actions.
So sometimes staying sick is just easier to do.
Of course. Yeah. So getting well, we're talking about change. And change isn't easy, or we'd all do it.
And it's really scary. I mean, that's what it comes down to. You know, I was in active addiction for 42 years. That's what I knew, and that was what was comfortable, and that was my go-to behaviors. And all of a sudden, stepping into something that I couldn't control or see what it looked like, what I was stepping into, was really scary.
And you couldn't control the other crap either.
No,
you just thought you had a false sense of control.
So I had loads of resentment. So I'd have this whole open up the suitcase with all the resentments and all the baggage, and start piling it onto other people and expecting them to read my mind and know my history and know where I came from and why I'm reacting this way. And it became like a whole chain of events and thoughts and processes, rather than just stepping up and being authentic and honest.
Yeah, and it just keeps you from being happy.
And it also, it stops me from being so exhausted.
Right, when you make that change.
Right, it stops spinning all those wheels of trying to keep all those chains going and those links going, because at the end of the day, I used to be absolutely exhausted and drained.
And scared. You guys, for me, I was scared. I was scared all the time. I was lying all the time. I lied to myself and I lied to everybody else all the time. And I walked around in fear all the time. And for me, that's what active addiction is.
And I was so lonely. You know, as
liars, we're lonely.
I was really, really lonely. I didn't understand what real friends were until I really started stepping into recovery. You know, the people that I associated with were the same as me. They were doing things because they wanted things, or because they had certain expectations, or I thought they did,
Or because of their ego.
or because
Because I want to look good on the outside because I don't feel good on the inside.
and that was normally the starting point of any conversation. Hi, you look great today, or did you do your hair, or whatever it was. It became such a physical, low resonating conversation, whereas today, being in recovery, those conversations are a lot deeper, where we can be a lot more honest and go, do you know what, this happened yesterday and I can see it because it is my ego, my whatever, these are my insecurities that I start feeling that make me react this way.
Yeah, so you guys, it ain't about, thank you for doing that, Haiti. It's not about looking good. It's about being okay with who we are inside. How we look on the outside is how you see me, right? Do we all want to be presentable? Of course. Does it matter in the world? Yes, it does. Am I going to get that job that I want if I'm wearing ripped jeans and a dirty t-shirt and I'm talking to my prospective boss picking my nose? No, I'm not going to. So I do have to suit up and show up, right? For whatever that is. But as long as I suit up and show up and I am well, and I never shut up, that's a yet, right? But as long as I'm doing my best to do my best, that's what I'm responsible for, and that's it.
So these unrelenting standards that we talk about,
we're going to talk about that again?
we are, because that leads into that point of why acceptance becomes so difficult. You know, when we have these unrelenting standards of ourselves and of other people, and I know we have a different perspective on this, but this is the way that I see it, is just really what those things that I personally feel that I can't live without, and the standards that I expect other people to live up to, even though I don't often do them myself. That becomes when I know that I'm not in acceptance. When I start judging, you know, when I step into that judgmental space, that for me is a huge sign that something's up with my recovery.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And we're full of, beside the fact that we're judging everybody else, we're full of self-judgment. Is there anything else going on online?
Somebody said, Tracy says,
Hi, Tracy.
Hi, Tracy.
do you vocally share your boundaries? Is it okay? I guess she's asking to vocally share.
Abso-friggin-lutely. And so you don't know what my boundaries are unless I let you know. If I say to Angeli, you are not allowed to traipse through my house with mud on your feet, it ends there. I don't need to be accepting of the fact that there's mud outside, right? And say, well, poor Angeli, she doesn't know any better because she doesn't. This is a ridiculous example, but it makes it kind of easy, right? So if I say to you, I need for you not to walk around my house with mud on your feet, I need for you to be responsible, please, and take your shoes off at the front door, that's it. I've set a boundary and it's done. I have this boundary, you guys, where people aren't allowed to yell at me. I don't care how mad you get. As soon as you start yelling, I walk out the door. It's a thing of mine. It goes back to, I'm sure, when I was younger, my shrink would say, and it doesn't matter why it is, it matters that it is. If you think that it's stupid and unacceptable, I don't give a shit. It's a boundary of mine. You want to scream? Go ahead and scream. I'm going to walk out the door. But you don't know I'm going to walk out the door unless I let you know, hey, Ash, you know what? I know you're angry. If you start screaming, I'm going to leave. Now I've set that boundary. Now you have a choice. No matter how angry you get, you have a choice to scream at me or not. And accepting the fact that that is one of my boundaries and knowing what the consequences are going to be for your behavior. That was a really good question, you guys. Absolutely. Nobody can read my mind. Nobody knows what I want or what it is that I need. Do you have to be accepting of that boundary? You don't have to, but I don't have to hang out with you if you're not.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
What does it mean to you? What does it mean to you if you have a boundary and then, because we learn, I think as addicts, we all know what our boundaries are in a sense, but our idea of how they're carried out and how we interact with others and still keep our boundaries is a little warped. So
We're learning, right?
right, because we're learning how to have those boundaries and set these things up and follow through with them. So now, if you're in a situation where you set a boundary and somebody disregards your boundary, whether it's intentional or not, what advice would you give to this person?
So we set boundaries because we want to feel safe. because we want to feel happy, right? Because there's certain, you know, if I'm in a relationship with you, you're not allowed to beat the shit out of me, right? That's a boundary that a lot of people let somebody else cross, right? It ain't a boundary that I would let somebody else cross. So if I'm setting a boundary, there's a reason for it. You know, they kind of say first time shame on you, second time shame on me. So I've said it once, you heard me, you crossed my boundary. So that's like, you know, whatever. Okay, so you walked through the house with the crap on with the mud on your feet, and I said, look what you've done. It's not acceptable. So you've done it once. Okay, you didn't know. I told you. You do it again, don't come over no more. That's the way that I look at it. I don't need to be accepting of something that's a boundary for me. Not when I've been crystal clear about what that boundary is. And these are my feelings, you guys. Doesn't mean it's for everybody else. It's what I've been taught, and that works for me.
So I ran into an issue yesterday. So it's really tough being a teenager today because marijuana is now legalized, and it's tough being a parent to a teenager. Marijuana is very pervasive, and it's around everywhere, and it's being legalized everywhere, and it doesn't serve me because that's one of my drugs of choice. So honestly, for me, it is a huge trigger. I wake up wanting to smoke a joint. It's a want and it's a thought, but it's not something I'm doing. I'm not picking up. But there's one of my son's friends who I've had this discussion with. Whatever he does, it's fine as long as it's not in my home or near me. And that's one of my boundaries. And yesterday I happened to be going around the garden and I found a bong. And I confronted my son and he goes, this is my friend's, because he does sleep here. I said to him, your friend is not welcome in our house anymore because I've had a personal discussion with him. And I said, it's unacceptable. It's one of my boundaries. I absolutely love him and it's got nothing to do with love. But if he can't respect me, then he absolutely, until he cleans up his act, is not welcome into this house. And if he does come into the house, I will have him removed. I mean, it's that hard line boundary for me because at the end of the day, my health is my priority. You know, I'm not responsible for a lot of things that happen to me, but I am responsible for my recovery. It's the one thing that if I don't make the biggest priority in my life and put anything else first, it's the first thing that I'm going to lose. And let me tell you something, the last time when I went out was really hard coming back, that I don't know if I've got another relapse in me. I mean, especially like another time coming back to be clean, because who knows what that looks like. It seems to get harder every single time.
Yeah,
Right.
and so she's talking about a physical thing,
Right.
A bong, which is very, very clean cut, and it was a really, really good.
Right.
Thank you for saying that, because it's a great visual. There's a bong out there. It's unacceptable. You're talking about a spiritual boundary,
Right.
right? So you're talking about something that I feel, right? Or a way that I look at the world. Remember, our recovery starts with our spiritual well-being. So for Haiti too, it's not the bong that's so much out there, which it is, but it's also disrespecting you.
Right, it's a respect issue,
Right.
and that being heard thing. For me, not being heard is a huge thing. It's one of the things that I carry around with me from when I was younger. So for me, it goes into a whole lot of other things in my own mind.
It always does, yeah.
Well, no, I appreciate both examples because you both started off by answering that by saying, well, this is how it is for me, and it's two separate examples and it's the same thing. But I think, I know you said this is how you guys would deal with it, but that's the healthy way to deal
Correct.
with it, right? It
Correct.
shouldn't be any other way. I know we're not telling people what to do, but I'm
Right.
just asking for myself, like, that would be the healthiest way to deal with it, right? Because, like, you both had the same idea for different,
Right.
Yeah.
So this is acceptable or it's not.
okay.
You know, some
yeah.
people are happy if you walk around the house with mud on your shoe because they have somebody that cleans up the house every day. I don't got that. So for me, it's not acceptable. You know what I mean? What's acceptable for me doesn't have to be acceptable for you or acceptable for you, right? Or vice versa. So that's our own boundaries are super personal, right? But for me, my boundaries have to be black and white. You know, boundaries are like recovery for me, you guys. As soon as I make it gray, I'm just floundering around. If I know, for me, this is okay and this isn't okay, it makes my life easier.
See, and my previous go-to was being blind. So it was better for me not to go into confrontation and not see things. So for me in the past would have been confrontation for me is a huge thing, and to do it in a way that's healthy, that I'm not like, that kind of voice comes out and that whole insanity comes out. But to be able to have a conversation with a person has been a huge learning process for me that I wasn't able to do before, because it was my own insecurity of wanting to look good. So even to have that conversation is a huge step, because all of a sudden being blind and not really saying the things that I'm feeling really is something that would have sat with me. If I never said something yesterday as it happened, which is my go-to behaviors in the past, it would have sat with me for a month, 2 months, 3 years from now, and would be festering, and I'd have a resentment against him and my son and my husband and the house. I mean, like, it just would have been so pervasive. Dealing with it as it happens is just a healthier way for me personally.
Spiritually.
Spiritually,
So we're
100%.
talking about spiritual recovery. Again, so it's always going to go back to how I feel spiritually. What I've decided is acceptable for me. And when I decide that your behavior, no matter what it is acceptable to me, it's because I don't feel worthy of being treated like a human being. Once I let you, again, step all over me, once I lay down in front of that door so that I could be your doormat, that shows that I don't have respect for myself, because I don't feel worthy of that respect.
So I have a question for everybody.
Go.
Okay, because honestly, we're stuck in.
Sunday
We've only
question.
got 4 minutes left. So I just wanted to ask everybody out there, because we love being of service and we love you guys joining us. We need to change our Wednesday time, because it's really late and I suck at putting up polls. So I just want to see, by the people that are out there, if 7 o'clock works for you. Can you give us a like or a thumbs up? or
Thursday, 7.
Thursday, 7 p.m. Would that work?
Eastern
Eastern
Standard Time.
Standard Time. Give us a thumbs up if that works for you, or just in this message, in this broadcast, type
Comment
yes.
7. Can you comment 7 if that works for you?
Yeah, comment 7 or perfect, awesome. And if 7 doesn't work for you and you prefer 8, just let us know. 8 o'clock. Just comment in the section now. Say 7 or 8. Okay, so this way we got a poll going.
7.
I just
7.
had to giggle at myself.
Okay,
What
then
does 7 mean? Sounds like if you push 7, it's police.
it's
Oh
lucky
my
7. It's like we're in the casino.
Oh,
Okay.
okie dokie.
So,
Wow, I'm scared.
So we have 2 meetings a week, just so you know. It's now going to be Thursdays, not starting this week, but the following week. We also have our workshop that is a small space. It really is for limited amount of people.
That's going to be Saturdays at 10 Eastern Standard Time?
Yes, it
Starts
is.
the week
It's a
after this one.
2-hour workshop. It is for, I think it works out to be 20 weeks in total, because it's work that needs to be done. So it's every second Saturday. It's twice a month.
Oh, it's every second
It's
Saturday.
every second Saturday, because there is homework to be done and it takes us time to work through it. So honestly, it is a great thing to do, but you can't join once it started. You're in it till the end. It is fabulous, but also we continue our broadcasts. People are struggling. Who's ever struggling with addiction, no matter what it looks like, addiction is addiction. Share this broadcast, give us a thumbs up, give us comments, go to YouTube, watch old archives. There is great information there. Reach out if you're struggling. Do it IMS, pick up the phone, call a friend, do it in What's Eating You, our private group. Don't sit with the stuff in your head. We've got the worst committees that live inside our head and keep us sick.
Yeah, and reach out if you're not struggling.
Right, just
You
say
know,
hi.
share your happiness with somebody else too. It's still a way of being of service,
We've
right?
got a minute. And
Oh, we've got a minute. I'm going to read the promises from the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. You guys, we're not affiliated with any of the A's. We're not OAAANA.
No
we're not
way.
any of that. We all got clean in those rooms. Shout out to anyone and everyone in every meeting out there. God bless us all. Get recovery wherever you get it. OAAANA. They're all amazing. This is from the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Thank you, AA. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that the universe does for us what we couldn't do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We don't think so. They're being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly and sometimes slowly. They'll always materialize if we do work for them. My name is Dr. Felice Cellini. Thank you so much for joining us in our Sunday morning Why Wait for Recovery community meeting. Thank you, everybody, for helping me to stay clean.
And I just wanted to say, if no one's told you today that they love you, I love you. Have a wonderful week. And
Peace
we will
out, you guys.
peace out, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Recovery's
you.
awesome.
Cheers.
So I have to unfriend that guy.